Welcome to the Addiction Solution Podcast. I'm Michelle Dunbar. Enjoy listening and watching as addiction experts Mark Sheeran and I cover controversial as well as helpful topics on addiction, how to move past it, and other related subjects. As two of the co-founders of the Freedom Model, Mark and I will give you a completely new perspective on the topics that matter to you. We will take to task the Recovery Society's lies and misinformation and replace them with facts, research, and the methods to move on from addiction struggles without 12-step meetings, rehabs, and the shackles of endless recovery. Let's escape the treatment and recovery trap together and learn to be free. Welcome to the truth. Hey, everybody. Our goal has always been to provide you with a solution to addiction that doesn't require you to go to rehab, do any steps, or go to meetings.
Or even be stuck on MAT regimens for the rest of your life either. And we built a workshop that we did last week and the week prior. We did 4 of them, and we picked the best one for you. And so it's a 2.5-hour workshop. It's called The Solution to Addiction. And it's amazing. We cover how to deconstruct your binge construct, why you do the things you do, because that's one of the questions we get all the time. Why do I keep doing this? And we give the answer for that. And we give the solution, a way out, a path out that makes sense.
Absolutely. When you get the Solution to Addiction course, we now have it as a course, and you can go right to thefreedommodel.org. It's right at the top. It says the Solution to Addiction. When you get it, you also get the Solution to Addiction book that we just wrote and the accompanying workbook. And you get the Freedom Model for Addictions book and the Freedom Model for the Family as well within that course module.
Yeah. So you literally have all the information, plus we teach you. And it's a really empowering, powerful course.
It is. So go to thefreedommodel.org or go right into the Freedom Model mobile app. And you'll see that if you hit, I think, the Discover, you'll see that we have the Solution to Addiction there for you.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Addiction Solution. I'm Michelle Dunbar.
And I'm Mark Sheeran. And we are the co-authors of the Freedom Model for Addictions, this here book, Escape the Treatment and Recovery Trap.
Yes, and we also created
along with Stephen Slate,
Stephen
of course.
Slate, and we also created the Solution to Addiction workshops. We now have a workshop available for people with substance use problems. We're setting that up now, so we're doing one more live for people specifically with alcohol and drug problems. That will be July 17th. So look for that on our website. And that's the last live one we're going to do. It is, there'll be 3 Q&A sessions within that. So it's a great opportunity to talk with us directly and also learn how to solve your problem within 3 hours.
That's right. And of course, we have the Solution to PMO and Sex Addiction workshop as well that we've had our 2 live events. We're going to have our 3rd this week, and that will be the final one of that.
And that is July 9th.
That's right. And the recording of that is available on the website, so you can get yours anytime you want.
Yes. So what we're going to talk about today, I did a video on this the other day, and it is, are we always doing exactly what we want to do? And the video and it provoked quite a discussion between the video and the post that I did about it. Provoked quite a discussion. I said, prove me wrong, right? Are you always doing what you want to do? And there's a lot of nuance to that. And a lot of people did bring up those different nuances. And I thought, boy, this could be a really great discussion because there's so much I want to say about it.
Yeah. So this, of course, coincides with the Positive Drive Principle, Chapter 7 in the book. And what motivates people making decisions. And that is that we always want to be happier people. And this is something that is very hard for some people to believe. because they always jump to, I'll start off the conversation in this way. It's sort of a different angle, that people want, that they do things that they dislike, right? People go, yeah, I'm
I
not,
have to go to a shitty job every day.
yeah, I have to, clean dirty diapers. Michelle has always brought that up.
Mhm.
But the reality is, I think people confuse the fact that there are situations in life in your sphere of influence where you have a limited amount of options of what you're doing. So if you live in a house, in a room, and in that moment your baby has a dirty diaper, the options would be different if you had a babysitter and you were at the beach. Obviously, in that environment, you'd have completely a different perspective about the dirty diapers. You wouldn't be even thinking about it. So people get confused a little bit here, based on the physical proximity of where they're at. They bring up options that have nothing to do with practical reality. And so sometimes when we look at this, we're talking in the practical reality of life. You're always doing what you want to be doing. And that is, you'd rather clean the dirty diapers than have a baby sitting in fecal matter, right? And crying and getting sore. So you may not like either of those options, but one is a little bit better than the other. And that's, a happy baby is a hell of a lot better, actually, than a crying, sick baby or hurting baby. Now, there are people that will let their baby be hurt because they in their proximity and in their mind and in their perspective, they don't care about their baby as much as they care about some other options, like maybe smoking crack or going to the store or being on their phone at that moment.
Well, that's it. I think what people confuse when I say you're always doing what you want to be doing, what I'm really saying is you're always freely choosing what you're doing. I'm not saying that what you want to do and that moment brings you pleasure. I think that they make that like leap to, well, if I want to do it, then it must be because it's pleasurable.
Or that it's morally correct.
Right.
Right. Some people go the other direction and say, that you're saying that they should be, every option in their sphere of influence is they're going to pick the one that's morally correct, and they don't. And they're like,
No.
see, I don't do that. And we didn't put those parameters on
No,
this.
not at all. People get angry. Like I did have the first initial response to my post was an angry one. Like that, nothing, it's not black or white. It's not black or white. And with respect to behavior, okay, to chosen behavior, it is. It is. And I am a very gray person. Okay. But if you feel like you're doing things that you actually don't want to do, you feel obligated to do certain things, even in that moment, you're still choosing.
Yeah. Obligation, in that sense, obligation doesn't actually ever exist. Neither does sacrifice. People say, I
That's right.
sacrifice. You can be a martyr, you can sacrifice, but you're getting the benefit of the sacrifice through the imagery of being a martyr. You get attention. So, or you value sacrificing, the concept of sacrificing, enough that you portray yourself as making a sacrifice. But is it really a sacrifice when, for example, you might want a Harley, but your kid goes to wrestling, or your kid has to go to a private school because that's what you want more than the Harley? Is that a sacrifice? I don't think that is, because ultimately, if you choose to pay for that schooling, you've decided that the value of that and the happiness it generates inside of you, the satisfaction of that choice, is greater than the Harley. I put off getting a Harley for 25 years, 30 years, for the benefits of making sure that my kids and my wife had a good life. That was my small role amongst many other quote unquote male sacrifices. But when hunting season came, even when we were dead broke, I was out in the woods because they made the sacrifice because they were happier to see me happy. So there's a symbiotic thing when people communicate, and you start to figure out, oh, there's give and take. And you know what? We're all doing what we want to do. And that's how you have a successful marriage, how you communicate with your kids. Now, if you don't communicate your needs and your desires, that's when things get sticky.
Well, here's the irony about martyrdom. I want to go back to, he talked about, the martyrdom is the actual martyrs in the world history didn't consider themselves that, because the choices they were making, they knew, they were mindful enough to know that I'm happier making that choice.
They knew the risks.
Yeah. So in their
Yes.
mind, there was
Yes.
nothing martyring about it. They didn't go about like making those sacrifices of their own lives to become a martyr, by and large, because it's its own reward, right? Like if you are doing something for the attention seeking of it, that is the reward. You're getting what you want from the choice that you're making, but you're still freely choosing it. So I want to go to this idea that I have to go to a job that I hate to feed my family, right? I have to go to a job that I hate to feed my family. And so okay, if every day you wake up and think I'm not doing what I want to do, if you every day you wake up and think that, boy, that's a tough way to live your life.
Yeah, because what that does, it shuts down options to looking at it and saying, I'm choosing this. I don't feel satisfied at this job. I don't like it, but I am choosing it. As soon as you shut off the choose part, you feel trapped.
Right. You all of a sudden you have no options. You limit your options, which is an illusion. It's not real. It's something you created.
That's right. You could just quit and go on welfare for the rest of your life.
People do it.
You could quit and look for another job. You could continue the job and look for a new job at night. There's so many that you could quit, go on welfare, and then look for a new job. So that's the bridge. Lots of people do that. I had to do that when I was 19 years old. There's a lot of different ways that you can see this. Here's another confusion that people have, and that is that they say things like, well, does the guy that gets caught in a POW camp, did he want that? And here's where we get into a really nuanced part of this. And that is that sometimes we have zero control over the proximity of our physical body.
Right. What's happening to us at any given moment in time.
That's right. If you didn't know a hurricane was coming and all of a sudden your hotel is a mile away and your car's not there and there's nobody around, you get caught in that hurricane, guess what? You're going to be in a set of situations that's really bad. And that's a proximity issue. Now, you still have volition. You can still hide behind a rock or start to problem solve. But, the proximity of your body or being captured and put in prison or a POW camp. There's a famous story of, I forget the guy's name. I'll get the guy's name, but he was a professional golfer and he was caught in a POW camp and they put him in a cage for, I forget how many years. It was like 5 years or something. And he was stuck, he was genuinely in prison in this awful situation. And when he got out of the POW camp, as soon as he regained a little bit of health, the very first time he went to the golf course, he was able to hit par for the course and qualify for a tournament. And it was the very first time he had picked up a golf club after being emaciated, starved, beaten, tortured for years on end in this small cage that he had to live in. And they asked him, how was it possible that he could do that? And he said, well, I had made the decision that I was going to run the course, practice my swing, and do all of that in my mind. And he goes, I had plenty of time to perfect my swing. And I thought about that. Is that not an amazing case of volition, of deciding to with your mind? Here was a guy whose body was actually captured in a foreign country. I don't know if it was Korea or Vietnam. I'll have to look it up. But, and yet he had made the decision to have choice and do what he wanted to do. He wanted to go golfing. And through mindfulness, he kept his swing clear. He was able to qualify, which is really an extraordinary thing. But it's really not extraordinary if you understand how the mind works and how the brain works. So we really do have choice in almost all circumstances in the mind.
Yes. Yes. And Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, also explains this to an extreme, and what Dr. Frankl went through in the concentration camps in World War II. I mean, yes, we're talking about extremes. I think one example somebody put up was sexual assault. Was, you're not doing what you want to do in sexual assault, and I would, you're not choosing that. That's
Right.
not that's something that's happening to you. Now, within your own mind, there are choices that can be made during that. You can choose to fight. You can choose to
Acquiesce.
You can choose. I mean, people do all kinds of things to make sure they can stay alive.
Yeah. If you watch like Forensic Files, and with survivors, they talk about all these decisions that they made in those circumstances, in those horrible circumstances.
Yeah.
But again, that's a case of where the body has been captured. So our physical being, sometimes we do not have control over that. If you get certain types of genetic cancers where there's no cure, and here's another reality about a lack of choice, if there was one, and that's death. We have zero choice to avert it. It's going to happen to every single one of us. And so I understand the difference. And I think what we're trying to say here is the difference between the body and the mind. And choice is in the realm of your mind and doing what you want to do. Give me a case where you were going against your own mind. That concept is very weird when you start to think about it, because when you start to realize that choice is in your mind, you'd have to have two minds.
Yes.
And that is, by the way, the definition of acute schizophrenia. Now, if you believe there are two of you inside of you, if you genuinely believe that, that's a different situation of mental illness that we don't even understand. Even the mental health community professionals don't really understand it. We manage it with medication as best as possible, but we don't. But barring those types of situations, is there really a case to be made that when you're deciding things for yourself, that you're deciding against yourself? How would that even be possible? That has to be explained to me. Now, in 34 years of challenging people with these concepts, nobody has ever been able to explain that, except for in treatment, where they say there's a metaphorical disease that forces you to use.
Right.
Which is why we're having this conversation.
This is exactly. And I was just going to say, now let's go down that road, that addiction road of, okay, every morning. And I think we talked about this recently in another podcast. Every morning at I wake up at 6:00 and I say, I'm not going to, you fill in the blank, right? I'm not going to do that today. The habit that I have, the thing I say I don't want to do. And then by noon or by 3:00 or by 5:00, I find myself wanting it and doing it. Okay. Almost like it's happening to you, like a sexual assault, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay. Like there's like my, my desires take over. Many people have these beliefs that something takes them over, that it's
Yes.
not something they want to do and they're doing it anyways. And so when I say everybody's doing exactly what they want to do at any given moment in time, if you have a visceral reaction to that statement, you're probably one of these people that's struggling with this.
Yeah. So what you're struggling, this is such a great point. So what you're struggling with probably is the concept that there is an entity, a nebulous force called addiction, that has control over your free will, your ability to choose. And once we go in that direction, once anybody goes in that direction, you have just created a straw man out of thin air. You've created something other than yourself that has life force that is choosing for you. And as soon as you start to feel powerless over anything, your circumstances, alcohol, drugs, relationships, bad situations, a bad job, what you're doing is you're creating within your mind, it's a thought trap. You're creating in your mind that there are forces greater than yourself, than your mind, or there is another presence that has control over how you choose. And That's schizophrenia.
Yeah. And not only is there a presence having control over you, but it does not have your best interest at heart. It's out to get you.
Right. It conspires against you. So it conspires means there's something else other than you inside your own mind. So you have to grapple with the reality that if that's what you believe, then you believe that you are schizophrenic acutely. And because there is no nebulous force inside of you or exterior to you that's forcing you or compelling you to behave in any way. Now, if you have a husband or a wife who's abusive and you've chosen to stay in that relationship and you haven't left and it's very bad, you may feel trapped. You may say, yeah, no, I'm really trapped. You're not. You can leave. All right. You're doing what you want to do by staying.
Yes.
You
believe there's benefits. And this is where we get to, okay, so if you are someone that we've just described that feels like you're doing things you don't want to do, becoming mindful is a matter of stopping yourself and asking the question, why am I doing this?
Yeah, this is me.
This is me. So clearly so what we're trying to get people to do when we say things like this is stop and ask themselves, wait a minute, do I want to do this? And if I want to do this, okay, if what they're saying is true and I really do want to do this, why?
Yeah. So that's where the confusion comes from. We land in bad situations because of a lack of mindfulness, or circumstances just land in our lap. And I often call it like a meteor lands in your lap, right? All of a sudden, the company that you work for, you didn't know they were going bankrupt. They kept that from you, and suddenly you're without a job. Meanwhile, you had surgery and you have a $10,000 bill. That's a rough situation, So a meteor can definitely land in your lap.
For sure.
And you can feel like a victim of something, and you can genuinely be a victim of something
Absolutely.
tragic. A drunk driver can hit your family and kill them. Right. So you have this is part of the human experience, but the thing that safeguards the human being is the metaphysical mind. So our mind is beyond the physical. So as long as you have consciousness, right? You're conscious. You can decide to think however you want and challenge the beliefs of, I need this in my life. I'm trapped. I'm this, I'm that. You can say, wait a minute. I have a mind. And that mind is not, you could capture my body like Nelson Mandela, stick me in a 10 by 10 cage for 20 years. He gets out and he decides to forgive, all the people that jailed him. And he asks everybody in the country of South Africa to forgive. He could have hated them. He could have started imprisoning the whites, right? And reversed apartheid onto them. But he didn't do that because in his mind, he knew he was free the entire time he was in that cage. So these are poignant examples. You're most likely not in a cage. No. You're most likely in a cage of your making. We talk about it, in the Freedom Model book. Are you going to live like a caged lion, or are you going to step out when that door is open? And the thing that opens the door is your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. If you feel like, okay, I'm stuck in a situation and I there's only two options. A lot of people get stuck thinking, well, I only have two very unpleasant options. There's always infinite options. There's always infinite things that you can do, almost always, and I mean, even in a cage, you can think infinite ways. And so, like Mark said, most people aren't in that situation. Okay. Most people are truly free to come and go as they please.
Yeah. Yes.
And not caged up. Somebody did use the example of, well, I didn't want to go to jail.
Nobody wants
to go to jail. But certainly there are things that we can choose to do where that's a risk. That's definitely maybe one of the costs of what we're doing. If I choose to have 6, drinks and get behind the wheel of a car, there are a whole lot of risks involved that I probably won't want to do, but I did want to have those 6 drinks and I did want to drive.
Yeah, and I did. You did want the benefits of those 6 drinks. And now, if you start stacking in mythology about these straw men that are out there to get you and manipulate your mind, when you start believing in these things, there's no answer there.
No.
No, that there's no answer there. Because there is only your mind being in operation inside of you. Now, here's something that people also get caught up with, and they say, well, it sure does feel like I'm battling myself. Now,
Yep.
you know what?
And we felt that way.
Yeah.
We get that.
And we've talked about this in many podcasts, but I'll repeat it here. And that's just when the benefits of one option are close to the benefits of another option. And even though they may be way down here and they may suck really bad, right? Both options, but you're just deliberating between two very equal things that are equal in your perception or very close to even. So it becomes, do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? And it's only when your mind goes to an alternative option that might be up here that we immediately go, oh, I'm out of the trap. But if we stay deliberating with the same 2 identical thoughts, and that is recovery sucks and drinking and drugging sucks. And when I quit, I feel deprived. So I go back to drinking and drugging. When I go there, it's wholly unfulfilling and is kicking my ass. So then I go back to a miserable recovery and then you go to rehab. And now you're in the endless recovery, drinking, relapse scenario. And what the freedom model says is, no, why are you vacillating between 2 shitty options when there's an infinite world out there? Get rid of this disease mentality, the straw man mentality, all the stuff that's got you locked
the
in
all
this
or
trap.
nothing, right? That my only 2 options are this heavy use that makes me feel like shit and obviously makes me not just feel like shit physically, but emotionally and mentally because this recovery thing tells me I'm a piece of shit for doing it, right? So and then I go back to recovery where I learn what a piece of shit I am.
Right. And feel deprived. It's deprivation-based, fear-based recovery.
Yeah. So yeah, of course you're going to get stuck in that loop. And what do most people do when they're vacillating, when they're trying to decide, is you go to the consequences, right? You go to the costs, you go to the costs, you go to the costs, you go to the fact, you try to motivate yourself by thinking, if I do this, I'm going to feel crappy, and I am crappy, right?
My liver is going to fail. I'm going to lose my wife. I'm going to lose my husband. I'm going to lose my career. I shouldn't want to do this, but I do.
But you think you don't. But this is why this concept of you're always doing what you want to do is so crucial. It's so important because once you get stuck in that loop, you really believe you don't want to do it. You really believe you wake up in the morning with resolve, and by 5:00 in the afternoon, the resolve is gone. And the thing about it is, the resolve is gone. Why? Because of the benefits you believe it holds for you.
That's right. Not because you're weak, but because you're operating exactly as human beings operate. And that is, my belief is that getting drunk tonight is better than what I'm doing right now.
It's better than the other options, and the options are infinite.
That's right. So once you close the door to infinite options, once you close the door and you start to say there's only drinking, drugging, there's only these things that make me happy, and you don't allow for the possibility that there could be many other things that are better, and you haven't, this is very important, and you haven't devalued the overblown attitude towards the object of your, fetish, whether it's booze, drugs, porn, whatever, if you haven't devalued that, then you're always going to go back to this magical thing.
That's right.
And so there's so many little intricacies with each person. If you believe that this thing is magical, number one, you're going to gravitate to it. And the thing about drugs, alcohol, and the various fetish objects that exist out there that cultures hang on to and promote, they're usually things that can easily be seen as really ridiculously valuable.
Yes.
Okay. So the buildup of drugs and alcohol has been marketed for thousands of years because the active placebo of that experience, the drug in your bloodstream, makes the magic believable, even though it's completely false. That it's going to take away stress, that it's going to take away your anxiety, that it does all this magical shit, makes you prettier, makes you more sexual, makes you be able to fight, gives you a voice, makes you sleep, does all this magical shit. If there's a drug that can do that, wonderful. But there isn't.
There isn't.
So
not even temporarily.
But if you believe that it is, then you're going to go to that. And then you build up this thing. Yeah. And then recovery looks miserable compared to that. But here's the thing. When you go back to drinking and drugging and you vacillate between two very, very unhappy options, you go back to drinking and drugging because the benefits are false, that they're objectively not real. You go into that experience expecting fun. The expectancy result lasts about a hit or two, and then it falls flat.
Yeah.
And that's where you think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because you're doubling down and it's getting miserable and even more unfulfilling. So jump out of all that, devalue that experience, jump out of that whole cycle and go, wait a minute. Maybe there's things in my life that genuinely go from this level, which is drinking and drugging and recovery and deprivation-based recovery, to here.
Right.
Maybe there's, oh my God, there's like a lot of options out there. And this thing down here, drinking and drugging, was never real to begin with.
Right.
That's the key.
Right. So you're always doing what you want to do
based on the information you have in that moment and up to that moment.
And the options, you're weighing options. Remember, so if you find yourself at 5 o'clock doing what you always have done, there's a reason for that. It's because you want it. So the question to ask yourself is why? Why do I want this? Why do I feel I need it? What are the benefits I think I'm getting? What will I miss if I don't do it? What are my other options? What are my competing options? Right? And they're infinite. So, I mean, is everyone doing what they want to do at any given moment in time? Well, of course they are. Of course they are. That doesn't mean I'm saying that they're doing it because they find it pleasurable. It doesn't necessarily mean I don't know what their reasons are for choosing what they do it, and neither do you. You only know your own reasons. Do you know your own reasons? Do you know why you do the things you do? Because if you don't, then you're probably one of these people who doesn't agree with what I'm saying.
Or you feel like you're in a trap.
Yeah.
And you're not. Nobody is trapped in the mind unless you make the trap real. Unless you make the decision, I'm not going to accept the fact that I'm choosing this. I'm going to make up a scenario within my mind that I have no say in this and that something else is in control of me. That's what you're saying when you say you don't have, that you're not doing something you want to do. And I don't think you believe that.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't put this out there. I think some people thought I might have put that out there so I could trap them right into
right.
this discussion
just being a jerk.
Just being a jerk. And I wasn't. This is when we're talking about addiction, when we're talking about behavior, when we're talking about finding happiness in life, this is a seriously important discussion, even though it's a kind of a philosophical discussion. It is an important discussion because there is a whole industry out there, the addiction treatment industry and a lot of the mental health industry, that doesn't believe this, and it's problematic. They don't believe it to such an extent that they will give you medications, right? They will give you to change your mind for you.
Yeah, they'll give you medications for a non-medical problem.
Yeah.
Think about that. So on the one hand, you have an active placebo, right? in the drug that you're taking, then they're going to give you a medication to counteract that, which is in itself an active placebo to counteract the active placebo. It's all a fucking shell game.
Yeah.
When the only thing you need to do is change your mind.
Yes. Yes. You're always choosing. You're always choosing. So if you don't feel like you're choosing, if you feel trapped, then the key to solve that problem is to get new information. It's to talk to people who are going to help you to figure out why you're doing what you're doing and how you can change your preference for what you're doing, how you can change your behaviors long term, how you can feel in control again. Because if you're not in control, who the hell is?
Right. By the way,
Right?
I really like the substance shell game.
I do like that too.
I just made that up.
You
And
did.
that's
You
going
like,
in an
it's a
article.
new thing, right? It's
All right. So I just want to say that if you're struggling with this, some people get it.
right off the rip.
It clicks and they go, "Oh my God, that makes so much sense." And we go through a lot of that in the book, and we also go over the devaluing process in the workshops.
Yep.
That's huge.
The solution workshops.
Yeah. So if you're trying to figure out how to devalue this magical thing that you think is out there for you, and you're beating your head against the wall because it's wholly unfulfilling, then you need the workshop. The other thing is, we can work with you because a lot of this is nuanced to your situation.
It is.
So it's like I needed Jer to say, "Wait a minute, tell me about that again," and I needed to talk it out. And then suddenly I started to realize, oh my God, that doesn't make any sense. When I was finally saying it to somebody who knew what to ask, what questions to ask. So sometimes listening to yourself is not the answer.
Well, no, because that is the difficult part of this is becoming mindful can be tricky because of your own beliefs. Your
Yeah.
own beliefs can hinder you.
Yeah.
I needed him to bounce things off of because he was there first and there was really nobody else. Everybody else was kind of towing that you're powerless line. And I was like, well, it does not sound right to me. And it does not even sound like a good way for me to live moving forward.
Yeah.
And I needed to know I'm the one choosing, right? Like I'm the one that's always choosing no matter what it is. And don't think for a minute that I figured all of it out. I didn't figure all of it out in the first few years. I didn't. It was for me a real learning process because there was none of this.
Right.
You know, we were figuring things out from a perspective of from the AA world. We were trying to figure it out, which was really difficult. You don't have to do that. We're here for you to kind of walk you through it. And also when you do coaching with us, you get the online program. So if you're struggling with this idea that you are powerless still, that there is something broken within you, all the chapters on debunking addiction as a disease are important. They're important for you to do. If you're we with coaching also comes the solution workshops. So that's that devaluing, which is amazing thing. When Mark was doing this, right? So when you're stuck kind of going back and forth and you're using like trying to use fear and consequences, when you devalue the substance and see it for what it is, it drops off the charts, right?
Yeah.
And the other option of being abstinent or reducing it, like significantly reducing your use, it becomes a no-brainer.
Yeah. It becomes easy.
It literally does. You're like,
easy,
why was
effortless.
I doing that?
Yeah.
Like there was nothing there. And once you ring that bell, it can't be unrung.
Yeah. It's the buzzkill.
Yeah, it really is. So I think there are some people though that don't follow through because they're like, I still want the magic for a little while.
Of course.
You know, which we understand that too.
Like Steve used to say, I like my placebo.
Yes. Yeah.
My little friend.
So, all right. I think we've covered that and it was a fun one.
Yeah, that
It
was good.
A fun one.
I always like the philosophical stuff. It's fun
too. I do too. So if you want to learn about the solution, our workshops, go to thefreedommodel.org. If you want to learn about coaching, it's there as well. Or you can just give us a call at 888-424 2626. Mark and I are both on WhatsApp as well now. So if you're somewhere around the world, email us and we can talk to you through that as well. So, all right. Yeah, we've coached people all over the world.
Yep, we have.
Everybody have a great week. And if you're in the US, this is going to be released right around Independence Day. So happy 4th of July, everyone.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Are you struggling with a drug or alcohol problem, but you don't want to go to rehab or group meetings? Well, that's why we created the non-12-step Freedom Model Coaching Program in 2011. Through video conferencing on Zoom or Skype, you can work privately with a certified Freedom Model coach from your home or office on your schedule. And here's the best part. With the Freedom Model, you'll never be labeled an addict or an alcoholic, and we won't tell you to go to 12-step meetings or hamper your life with endless recovery rituals. Instead, you can learn exactly why addiction isn't a disease and how you can solve the problem for good and move on with your life. Do you want to be completely free from your addiction? Do you want to never have to attend meetings, rehabs, or addiction counseling ever again? And do you want to solve your problem from the comfort of home? Then call us at 888-424-2626 to talk with a Freedom Model coach today and experience the Freedom Model difference.